Hey everybody, this is Reese Edgington with Barbeque Hero. Barbeque Hero is all about teaching people how to barbecue and help make great family memories. So I want to tell you a little bit about how I got started with it. So about 22 years ago, I graduated from VMI, Virginia Military Institute, and got a commission into the Air Force. And I was sitting in my apartment, and I remember it to this day. I was sitting on my bed and I was wondering, what am I gonna do? I just got a phone call from my mom saying that her and dad were splitting up, and that really rocked my foundation. That was just terrible news for me. And so, here I am on my own for the first time. I had a ton of time on my hands, and I just started thinking and started reflecting on that, and all these memories came up from my childhood and all the good times. And I just remember barbecuing with my family and seeing mom and dad on the deck doing it, and just the great smells, and those are the kind of memories that I had. And so I thought, as I was sitting there, I thought, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'm going to jump in and try to learn how to barbecue, because those were my best memories, and it also gave me a little bit of peace of mind in the moment. And so I want to say about 3 or 4 months later, I got married to my high school sweetheart, Anna. And I thought, you know what, this is perfect. I'm going to jump into this barbecue thing and start teaching myself how to do this, and that can be one way that I can contribute to our family and our marriage. By cooking the chicken, cooking the ribs, the steak, whatever it was, I could bring that to the table for her, and that would be one of the ways that I could contribute as her husband. And so, I was really looking forward to that. But really the problem was I had no clue how to do it. Absolutely no clue how to do it. I didn't really pay attention when my parents were cooking in the backyard when I was a kid. So I just knew the stuff tasted great. And so I'm kind of sitting there thinking, okay, how do I even do this? I didn't have any of the tools that I needed. Damien, that was stationed out there in Oklahoma with me, and he had a grill, and he didn't really know how to barbecue either. But we thought, you know what, let's jump into this thing together and figure it out on the fly. So that's what we did. We jumped into it, and we actually started with brisket, which it's like the hardest thing to do. And so we started with brisket. We had a lot of fun, but one of the things that in this whole pursuit, in this whole new journey, was I needed to figure out, why was I going to do this? Why was this important to me? And so when I thought about that, I thought, you know what, I want to do it right. I want to do it right. And when I say I want to do it right, it's not that I want to do barbecue right. It was, I want to be the model husband, the model dad. And so I wanted to one day be that husband and dad that's intentional about making great memories for their family. I wanted to create that environment where I could slow the pace of life down for my family, and we could really enjoy each other. And I wanted to be the dad that my kids could look up to. And so here I was again. I had great intentions. I was on my own. I had a ton of time, but again, I had no plan. I had no tools. I had no knowledge about how to even handle raw meat, and I had no confidence in what I could do either. So because I didn't know anything, I had no confidence in cooking on the grill. And so, all I could do was jump in, and that's what I did. And I started barbecuing, and actually started cooking, like I said, briskets and whole chickens, Boston butts, And I had some successes, and I had a lot of failures too. And I started, what I started doing was kind of documenting my process and the plan for how I was gonna cook these things. And along the way, I started to see some patterns and some things that I was doing really good, and I picked up on some tricks and some cool tactics to line everything up. Something as small as how to get the grill started the most efficient way you can. And so I was picking up some of these cool tips along the way, and I was doing this for about a year, and I started to notice, hey, my confidence, I was actually getting more confident along the way. And so I started realizing that part of the reason why that was the case was because I actually was writing down what I was doing, and I had some kind of a semblance of a plan, of a defined plan of what I was going to do. And as my plans improved, so did the food. The food started actually tasting better. The brisket, the chicken, whatever I was cooking over time started tasting better. And I found that my confidence started boosting as well. I realized, you don't have to be a pro. You don't have to be a barbecue pro to cook good barbecue. You don't. And so I continued to document the process and to continuously improve it along the way. But there was something missing. I want to tell a quick story. I was in Oklahoma for about 2 years, and then I got restationed to Colorado Springs. And in Colorado Springs, they have the Air Force Academy, and I was an assistant wrestling coach out there. And so my wife and I had met a bunch of people out there, and so we decided, we're going to go ahead and have a barbecue and invite a bunch of friends over. And so I was like, hey, yeah, this is great. I can cook on the grill, baby. I can go ahead and set it up and do like a pork loin, and it's gonna be awesome. My confidence was up, and so I got a phone call that evening from a friend saying, hey Reese, I went ahead and set up a tea time, a golfing tea time for 2 o'clock, or excuse me, it was 1 o'clock. I think we can get some holes in, maybe 9, maybe 18. We'll see what the pace of traffic is. That's fireworks, July 4th tomorrow. But anyways, he was like, hey, we'll see how many holes we can play, but let's go golfing at 1, and then we can come back and we eat at your house. And I was like, hey man, that's a great idea. So I told Ann, I was like, hey, listen, here's the way it's gonna work. I'm gonna go ahead and set up the grill and get it going. All you need to do is keep the temperature at 275 degrees. So one thing you need to understand is this is back in the early 2000s, and so at that point they didn't have these like the Traeger grills, the set it and forget it kind of thing where you just load it up with pellets, you set it for 275 and it just goes. That's not what we were operating with right at that time. I had a barrel grill that I was using, and literally I was putting wood sticks in there, or oak chunks in there, and some coals to keep that temperature up. And if you don't know what you're doing, it can be kind of tricky. And so, but I just made the assumption, oh, she'll be all right. She can do that. So I went golfing. She reluctantly agreed to go ahead and taking over the grill. And so, we're having a great time, out on the golf course. I'm hitting the ball nice, and then all of a sudden I get some phone calls we're about 8 holes in. I'm getting a phone call. Hey, temperature of the grill is now about 150. I've been trying for about a half hour to get the temperature back up to 275. I can't do it. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, baby, just throw some coals in there and get a match and light it and put it in there. Yeah, that was not good. Not to mention, one little tidbit that I haven't mentioned yet is, she was 7 months pregnant with our first child, and I've got all this worry put on her shoulders to make sure that this pork loin is cooked up right. So, long story short, I come back home and I look at the meat in the grill and I'm like, oh my gosh, this doesn't look right. It doesn't. It doesn't look cooked. And so I was like, all right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this. It was a pork loin. It's a good sized pork loin. I'm gonna take this loin and I'm gonna put it in the oven, and I'm gonna blast it at 400 for like 15 minutes. That'll do it, and we're good, you know. So I did that, and I brought it out and I served it, and you know, it actually tasted good. It tasted okay, and everybody liked it. And I was like, wow, you know, huge success. And so I was like, sweet, and everybody ate, and we just had a good time that night. We said goodbye to everybody, and we went to bed. And the next morning, I get a phone call at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, hello? And it was my buddy and his wife that had come over that night, and he was like, hey, how are you guys doing? And we were like, we're good, what's up? And he was like, yeah, we've been up all night sick, you know, both ends. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just gave food poisoning to my buddies that came over with the pork loin that we didn't cook all the way. And I was humiliated. I was so embarrassed. I didn't know what to do. And my confidence was just shattered. I was so, it was embarrassing. And so, you know, that story, while my wife and I can laugh about that right now, it took several years before we could even talk about that, because she was so upset at me, and with good reason. So what that taught me was I didn't understand how critical consistent temperatures and the timing of when the meat should come off and what you should be doing. I didn't understand those concepts. I didn't understand the science behind barbecue. And so that was one of my main downfalls at that time, and a huge barrier that I had to figure out. How do I get out from underneath this? And most of all, my confidence was just gone. So I decided, you know what, I need to invest in myself. I need to start learning how to do this. So I started reading books. I took some classes. I took some barbecue classes, and actually learned a ton about the science behind barbecue, and timing and temperatures and flavor, and just things that I wouldn't have learned on my own. And I even picked up some secrets that some of the pros were doing that they don't talk about, and you don't figure that out until you really kind of get deep into the community. And so I took all of that knowledge, and I went back and I started practicing and working at it and grilling. Almost every dinner we were grilling something, so that I can, you know, regain that confidence and really start applying some of this new education that I got. And so what ended up happening was my barbecue went from down here to just going next level. And like I'm saying, like 3 to 6 months. Like I was cooking barbecue that was absolutely amazing. And even my wife was like, "This is crazy. You're doing such a great job. I don't know how you've gotten so good at this." And I mean, I'd have friends. We now have friends coming over, and they're eating with us, and they're just like, "Man, that's the best brisket I've ever had." Like, these are people that are like barbecue connoisseurs, and they're loving the food that I'm putting together. And I attribute that to just the years of experience and the digging in and the research and education and the investing in myself that I took to make that happen. And so, you know, it's so great that, you know, I'm where I'm at now because of all of that hard work that I put in. But I guess the most important thing and the best thing for me was my son came to me and he told me, he said, "Dad, I am so happy that I have you because you are such an amazing griller. That to me just, it gave me goosebumps. I mean, he was like, I am so glad I have a dad that can barbecue as good as you can. Guys, that's mission accomplished right there. That's what this is all about. So stay tuned for more Barbeque Hero. Thanks, everybody.